What's up guys, welcome back to the iherng podcast. This is an introduction of a new app developed by my group of friends called Openhouse. So it looked like this Openhouse, and it's developed for first-time home buyers. A feature I really like is when you are in a specific location, especially when you are going out with your friends on a new location for lunchtime. On this app, they will tell you all the available projects that is around you. So when you are hunting, for example, you go into a new sales gallery, you on this app, within how many km there is another sales gallery or there is another project. So it really helps broaden your research by zooming into the specific location. For example, if you are looking into Bukit Jalil and when you research the median price for the location, right, these apps then becomes very useful. Another cool feature is it gives you also access to early bird deals that is available before opening to the public. So that's what we want as investors. We always want the first-hand news and we make booking first before it's actually officially launched to the public. So this is when you can get the best price. So do check it out. Do check out the app. It's called Openhouse. And now let's go on to the question for today. This is by AC. Congratulations on hitting 100,000 followers soon. Big fan of your work. I stumbled onto your content earlier, looked through even your older content, love to explore building equities through a rental portfolio. I'm a Singaporean, my wife is Malaysian, and I am working overseas right now with my wife taking care of the household full time. Our apartment in Singapore that is being rented out right now, currently cash flow positive. Using this cash flow, we are looking into investing in properties in Malaysia. A big part of that reason is we see ourselves retiring in Malaysia in about 20 years, and we would love to see this as a step towards that direction. So questions. Number one, how likely are we to get a housing loan in Malaysia? We will likely buy in my wife's name, but because she is not actively drawing an income, how can we overcome that hurdle? We have enough cash on hand for down payments. Number two, we are looking at older subsale units in Mont Kiara under 1 million. And with a good expat demand. Are there ones that you recommend for us to look at other than Sophia, Pines, Pelangi and Palma? Number three, what can we expect in terms of cost and potential challenges maintaining an older apartment? Having reputable developer like UEM and capable estate management will play a big part. Number four, how do we make sure that we can enter at the lowest price other than to have a broker to work with us in identifying good deals in these projects? Number five, trying to get a good gauge of pre-rental spending for rental. What are the makeover guys' potential charges to renovate and refurbish a 1,200 to 1,400 square feet apartment? Number six, I understand that UEM operates the entire Mont Kiara area. Has there been a precedent where a developer decides to stop supporting that area and develop other greener pastures and the whole area goes down in valuation? I'm just curious about the developer's incentive to keep developing the area, especially since many of these projects are freehold and that will not continue to benefit the developers beyond the sales process. Thanks Sean for entertaining my question. Keep doing the good work in bringing Malaysia's property knowledge to everyone. First of all, AC, thank you so much from Singapore all the way. I appreciate the email. Basically, the question is quite direct. A Singaporean trying to move over to Malaysia and retire in 20 years time, so they are planning towards that. And if you look into the news right now, JB market is insanely hot right now. It's less of a pull factor in my opinion, more of a push factor. Means in Singapore it's just too bloody expensive to live in. The cost of accommodation in Singapore is just going crazy berserk right now. Therefore, Johor Bahru seems to be a very cool alternative. And with the brand new train linkage, with a brand new administration, and with a brand new monarchy system in place, right, there has been a lot of positive outlook from Johor's perspective. What's cool for AC is they are looking beyond that. They're looking to invest in Mont Kiara instead. So if you were to compare prices, right, it's pretty crazy that Johor Bahru prices and Mont Kiara prices are about the same. And from an investment perspective, right, it's very interesting. If you've been to Mont Kiara before, if you have not, you can just check out the channel for any reference, right? It's just filled with towers and towers of residents, and the streets are always packed, traffic is always congested. So many malls, so many commercial buildings, so many things, so many people. It's just very prosperous. Therefore, the demand for spaces there is constantly very high, therefore resulting in a very good yield from an investment perspective. That's why a lot of investors prefer that location. Also, it's a very popular location because of the expat community support. If you are a Japanese, if you are a Korean from UK, if you're from the Middle East, you can see communities of such, even on their billboard or their office or their agency, is often described in their language. Like for Japanese, right? Oh, this is an English class, but the billboard is written in Japanese. So there's a lot of positive things going on in that location. But if you look into Johor Bahru, in the perspective of infrastructure, population, right, it's just not there in comparison to Mont Kiara lah, I mean. But if you look into the prices and yield, it's very, very interesting. And that's the beauty about real estate investment, because every location is very specific. Every location will have different demographic of target audience, different strategies to be applied, and etc. For example, in Johor Bahru, locals do not like high rises because all this while they have been growing up in a landed property. Therefore, a lot of ambitious young folks goes to work in Singapore, and after they earn their Sing dollar, convert back to Malaysian ringgit, and they will get a landed house first. If you look into the housing prices in Johor Bahru in comparison to their income, right, not tally one. The same applies to Sarawak, the same applies to Sabah as well. If you compare their housing price into their income ratio, right, something is weird, something is often. Only in KL it kind of makes sense because you will have a lot of employees, a lot of white collar workers in the city itself. Therefore, you can see the correlation between the income and the housing price. But in Johor, it's very different because a lot of folks are earning Sing dollars. A very cool example of the difference is I kind of share a landed property investment with a friend in Johor that's closer to Tuas checkpoint. And what we always think is that, oh, landed property can never have the rent to cover the installment one, right? Very, very rare. But because of this surge of housing price and rental price of Singapore's property, right, a lot of Malaysians working in Singapore are seriously considering to travel every day. So the proximity to the checkpoint, either Woodland or Tuas, right, becomes a very, very important measurement. It's like our connectivity to KLCC and TRX, right? To them is the two checkpoints, and that is the base of their consideration for any form of investment. That's why your investment strategies in Johor Bahru does not necessarily work in KL, and in KL it does not necessarily work in Johor Bahru as well. So just to establish that fact first, because it's a very, very interesting finding after exploring around Malaysia. Like your strategy in East Malaysia is going to be very different from your investment strategy in Penang, Genting, Melaka, Ipoh, and etc. All will have their very own strategies. But anyway, welcome to Malaysia. Like literally, you are living the proposal that Rina and I, like my friends from Far Capital, we are actually encouraging a lot of folks like you guys, like a Singaporean married to a Malaysian, right, to actually live this life. Because if you rent out your apartment in Sing dollar, if you convert back, right, you will have a very comfortable lifestyle here in Malaysia. And let's get into the question. So the question one, how do we get a housing loan in Malaysia? Our banking system in Malaysia recognizes Singapore like a local. We even look into your CPF account. We totally recognize your income statements. You guys are getting the same treatments in terms of interest rate, in terms of loan tenure, just like a Malaysian. But the only challenging part for you is you want to buy in your wife's name, but she don't have an income. How do we overcome that hurdle? So that's going to be the tough one. You will need specific arrangements where it can be your wife's name in the agreement, but the loan, the bank loan is assessing based on your income. So it can either be the SPA, your wife's name, loan agreement, your wife and your name. Then in this part, you also mentioned that we have enough cash on hand for down payments. So this is going to be a very interesting topic as well, because the strategy that we always advise Malaysians who works in Singapore, or you guys are actually interested to invest in Malaysia property, right? The strategy has always been to keep as much currency in Sing dollar as possible and to invest using your credibility in Malaysia. Again, to keep as much capital as possible in Sing dollar and to qualify for property loans in Malaysia using your credibility. So this strategy was heavily developed by the team in Far Capital, which is the property investment company company that Rina works in. Just to clarify again, I'm a client for this investment company. This does not belong to me, but they have been helping a lot of Malaysians who are working in Singapore to invest in Malaysia's property using this strategy. So they mainly target new projects instead of a subsale strategy like yours. They target new projects because they are able to qualify for more discounts as they operate in a bulk purchase format where they discuss directly with a developer and they underwrite a whole building before the project is even launched. Therefore, the participants or the members of the club get to enjoy the extra rebates and extra discounts. So technically, when you buy a project via them, you don't have to cough out any capital at all. So this is what I meant by using your credit as long as you can qualify for the loan, so the discount will somewhat offset the down payments and etc. while you'll keep your capital in Sing dollar, because naturally, right, that would be quite a brainless thing to do. Like, I will also want to keep my money in Sing dollar format, but too bad I'm earning Malaysian ringgit. So there's a link down below if you are interested to join, but please do read through everything first. Join only if you feel comfortable, but the monthly commitment right now for them is very low. It's like 150 bucks only per month to somewhat get access into their inventory. So that is something that I would heavily recommend. Question number 2, we are looking at older subsale units in Mont Kiara under 1 million. Are there anything that you recommend to look at other than Sophia, Pines, Pelangi and Palma? So there are a few things to compare when you have old buildings versus new projects lah. So the main difference will be the design aspect of things. Like older projects, if you were to calculate based on price per square feet, yes, it will be more value because usually those are cheaper. Like you can find 600,000-700,000 projects that is around 1,200 square feet still in Mont Kiara. But the entire layout structure is not favorable because of the limitation on the construction technology available at that time. So ceiling was lower, the entire room format was a bit different compared to the new ones. Like personally, I've bought one of the latest project in Mont Kiara and it's generating the highest return compared to the older project. So the goal is not to buy the cheapest one, but to buy the highest ROI one. Okay, the goal of investment is not to buy the cheapest project, is to buy the money-making projects. Unless you are looking for an own stay perspective. But if you are looking for that reason, right, you are going to move into Malaysia maybe about 20 years time, I would suggest to not buy now for the sake of 20 years later. When you were to fix an intent to buy a property in Mont Kiara, please make it very clear it's for investment purpose only. This is when our entire consideration, our entire logic will be based on numbers. Like what's the return like? Although this is cheaper, but the ROI is maybe 4.5%. But this one is way more pricey. Like the price per square feet, right? Like the one that I bought is around 1,000 per square feet, but down the street is only 600 per square feet. So technically it's more worth to buy the 600 one. But in terms of ROI, mine is like 6.9%. Theirs is like 4.2%. Which one would you want to buy then? Yes, there are bigger 1,500 square feet, but mine is like 800 over square feet only. But shouldn't we go and buy the cheaper one? No. If it's for investment, buy the higher ROI one compared to the cheaper price per square feet one. And 20 years later, if you were to really move into KL already, there will be different consideration. Like, you know what? Maybe let's just discuss right now. If you are going to move in, right, as a Singaporean, there will be a limitation of how many days you can be in Malaysia. So maybe every 30 days you need to move back to Singapore. You need to clock into Singapore for a while and come back up. Yes, a lot of people, like my friends who are Singaporeans who are literally living in Malaysia, right? They told me initially that they thought it was okay to just fly in, fly out Singapore, just get a chop on the passport, right? Every single month, and it's okay. Just take that as a makan trip. But when they are living in Ipoh, when they are living in Penang or in KL, right, every month you need to do this, it somewhat became a chore. And as age catch up, right, you are in an age where you want to mellow a bit, you don't want to just chase things all the time. It somewhat became a stress for them. So now they are really looking into the MM2H policies. Hopefully it will be more friendly for them to somewhat have an entire year of clearance, so they don't have to do this every single month. That's going to be an obstacle for you as well. That's why a lot of Singaporeans will still prefer Johor because it's just a drive away. And that's something I would recommend as well. And so I don't know where your wife's family lives, maybe in Ipoh, maybe in Kuantan, I'm not too sure. But a recommendation from me is to go for a lifestyle that will never be available from a Singaporean perspective. For example, a 3,000 square feet landed property. That's going to cost like $10 million in Singapore. But if you come into Malaysia, right, well, it depends where lah, but maybe 2 to 3 million, you can definitely get one already. But you don't even need to own it, you can even consider renting them. And that's what a lot of Singaporeans do in Johor. They get a landed property, yes, they just clear the minimum price for foreigners and they use it to park all their toys, aka sports cars. So all I'm saying is please do not confuse this initial purchase in Mont Kiara right now as a just in case you will want to live in 20 years time. My opinion, we can consider that option after you move in, also not too late one, because 20 years is a very long time. Question number 3, what can we expect in terms of cost and potential challenges maintaining an older apartment that's around 30 years? So this is a very rare phenomenon because the projects in Mont Kiara are exceptional in terms of maintenance. Like if you look into the very old ones, right, generally they are all maintained really well, except the one that is around Duta Mas area that is heavily decorated. It was intentionally designed and built as an Airbnb destination. Therefore, it's constantly being abused by the users, and because of their strategies around their design, in terms of practicality, in terms of maintenance, right, it's not there because, again, the original intent is to let the building be a destination for short-term stay. So that's an exceptional one, but the rest in Mont Kiara, generally, it's all okay. I think mainly because of the income group lah. So at that level, everybody is just willing to pay. The occupancy rates are high and there's a sense of community. Also the developers. So what you mentioned is true. Having reputable developers, yes, it plays a very big part. Question number 4, how do we make sure that we can enter at the lowest price other than to have a broker work with us? Within the subsale market, that's the only way. Like in my example, again, for my Mont Kiara unit, right, I bought it subsale, but at a price that is almost cheaper than the first phase buyers. And this is because I know the owner personally and he's willing to give me a special price because we are friends. And do I wish I have more friends like that? Of course I would. But the key difference here is the readiness to receive opportunities. So that's what they call luck. The entire definition of luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I was constantly hunting because my bosses in the makeover guys, they also own units in the exact same project that I invested. So they were telling me how great their returns are. So I was literally obsessed and I know the price inside out until my friend offered, hey, this price you want or not? Of course I take lah, right? And because of that, I was ready in terms of my financial, in terms of my commitment, and in terms of my secrets and etc. So I was ready for the deal. It was like meant to be one. So in this case, I would suggest to not rush into things. Like now, shop a bit first, right? So to just, okay, look at the 4 like Sophia, Pines, Pelangi, Palma. What's the price per square feet? Also look at the new ones I would suggest, because the company that I suggested, Far Capital, right, they are very active in Mont Kiara itself. In fact, their office is in Mont Kiara. So there are a lot of brand new projects available around that area. So my suggestion is, before making any decisions, play a bit first and understand the rules and regulations and the market for now. So just look into price per square feet, what's the site like, what's the size like, what's the return like, what's the condition like, in comparison to the older projects versus the new, large units versus small, Mont Kiara versus Duta Mas versus Segambut versus Jalan Kuching, what's the difference, where's the potential MRT track like. So get all this ready first, so you have a clearer picture before you pick a project to invest in. Number 5, trying to get a good gauge of pre-rental spending for rental. What are the makeover guys' potential charges? You can just head on to the link down below. You can just speak to our customer service, right? Tell them like 1,200 to 1,400 in Mont Kiara, what's the room rental like, because we have existing data. So a lot of people think that makeover guys' strength is only refurbishing, right? Actually, the strength of the team is the data behind. Because most of the projects we have covered and we have results of the rent in comparison pre-renovation versus post-renovation. So we have all the data, but just do check with the customer service, or you can just get a quick quotation within the website itself. And here you have the promo code Sean Tan Makeover 22, Sean Tan Makeover 22. If you can use it to get extra discounts, but the discount is actually dependent on the total amount of the renovation. So it's pretty easy, like you just speak to a person there, or you can just go to the website. Okay, the link is down below in the description. Last question. I understand that UEMS operates the entire Mont Kiara property. So are there precedents where a developer decides to stop supporting an area? And will that affect the price of the projects? Not so soon lah. So there are very limited lands left in Mont Kiara, but if you look into the drone shots, they are easily, I would say there's going to be another 60% of Mont Kiaras to be developed. So if you look into Jalan Mont Kiara 7, about the hill, right, there's going to be another 6 to 7 plots. But what's more popular now is along Jalan Kiara 3, where it's developing towards Segambut. Then you also have the other direction where it's closer to Dutamas. Then you have the entire KL Metropolis Township. So that's going to be very, very exciting as well. So your statement here is half accurate. So UEMS used to be the main driver for the location, but now it's actually a mix. You will have a lot of other boutique players. For example, like Bon Kiara, you will have TWY, the name is TWY. You will have Pentamon that is developed by Trinity Group. You have Solastar developed by Y&H. You have Midtown developed by NASA. Then you have Arte Mont Kiara developed by Artis Group. So there's a mixture now, not only driven by one main developer. So in this sense, then I don't have to worry, because if you look into the core street of Mont Kiara, it's still very, very prosperous, because it's not mainly only residential projects. A location needs to be sustainable in a way where it needs to have a great mixture of commercial versus residential. Your rule applies perfectly onto a residential only township. Once you sell finish, you get a profit, done, right? No more value really. There's no value to be reaped by continuously developing a location further, right? So this is going to be a very good consideration for some of us to invest in township projects. For example, Sunway Velocity is a very good example of this. Like they will have a lot of investment components within the township, like the mall, like the hospital, the university, and etc. So as they build the surrounding, residential projects are developed and sold, somewhat like a cash flow purpose only, but also they get to enjoy the capital appreciation driven by all those activities. So the more they build, the more value their medical center and malls and university will be worth. And that is where they have the sustainability aspect of things. They wouldn't build anything to sabotage the entire township at all. So for this kind of developments, you will see the progress of an address, but there are also earlier phase, for example, USJ, right? So USJ was developed by Sam Dhabi. It was a pure residential project. Once they build, they will let go, build, finish, let go, because their monetization format is very, very different. They have lands in abundance. So the entire strategy of building a township is going to be different from Sunways. It's going to be different from Desa Park City. It's going to be different from UEM in Mont Kiara as well. But slowly you will see more and more shifting towards the township development side, where it involves a property investment component. So the more they build around that core, indirectly their very own investment will also increase in price. However, this is very, very capital intensive. So not many players get to do this strategy actually. A lot try to move into it, but property investment versus property development is a very different game altogether. So those who can do it very, very well, right, usually their property price is going to carry a premium. If you compare side to side, a township one versus a pocket land development, this one two bedroom, why this one will fetch a premium of 20 to 30%? Like it's side by side one. So again, this is very evident if you look into Velocity, Sunway Velocity side, you will see Sunway products versus the others, right? There's a rather significant gap in pricing actually. So then which one should we invest then? Again, it depends on whether are you buying as a home or you are buying from an investment point of view. So if both fetch equal rental returns, right, I will of course go for the cheaper one because generally the yield is going to be higher. But in terms of capital appreciation, we might look more into the sense of connectivity, the distance to the MRT and etc. But it's a very, very good observation, a very, very good question, surprisingly from a Singaporean. Singapore has the best urban planning ever because it's driven heavily by the government, driven heavily by HDB. But in Malaysia, it's all developed by different groups all together. That's why it's very interesting to see, right? The entire map of Desa Park City versus Setia Alam versus Sunway Velocity versus PJ versus Shah Alam versus USJ versus OUG versus Bukit Jalil, all will have different typologies altogether. But only people with certain level of obsession will notice that lah. Like me. And I guess that's all for the questions. So welcome to Malaysia. My suggestion is to get in touch with the team in Far Capital. The link is down below, because the strategy is to keep as much capital in Sing dollar yet use the credibility to own properties in Malaysia. That's the strategy. Okay. The second point is don't invest in Malaysian properties with the mindset of just in case we want to stay. If it's 2 to 3 years time, okay. But if you're coming in 20 years time, right? Don't buy houses just in case one. So have a clearer intention of investment or own stay driven purpose. Then when we shop for properties, the main goal is to not shop for the cheapest product, but to shop for the one that gives us the highest yield. So that's going to be a key factor when you consider old projects in Mont Kiara versus newer ones. They cost more, but when the yields are higher, go for that instead. The goal of investment is to make money, right? Not buy the cheapest. And the last point, to identify good deals in Malaysia for subsale, unfortunately, is only good brokers, but it's to stay ready. Like the more information you will have more chances of recognizing good deals when it comes to you. For example, I throw you a deal right now, you immediately know that it's a good deal instead of, hey, wait for a while, let me do my research now. No. You do your research work prior to the deals falling onto you, right? But of course, you still have Openhouse, which is the app that can help you get somewhat early bird discounts, or you can actually just join Far Capital for bulk purchases. But those are generally new projects. If you want subsale, no other shortcuts but patience and hard work. And I guess that's all for this question. It's a rather lengthy one, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching the channel. And for those who still have any questions regarding real estate, do just email me at taniherng @gmail.com, or you can just DM me on Instagram iherng. And this is me just recovering from a very bad flu. In fact, I'm still not 100% just yet. That's why the voice is a little bit weird, right? But anyway, thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one. Ciao.